At Sierra, you'll always find apparel, footwear, and gear for 20 to 60% less than department and specialty store prices. But right now, it's clearance time, so you can save even more on everything you need to get active and outside. Visit your local Sierra store today.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Checking off the boxes on your to-do list is a great feeling. And when it comes to checking off coverage, a State Farm agent can help you choose an option that's right for you. Whether you prefer talking in person, on the phone, or using the award-winning app, it's nice knowing you have help finding coverage that best fits your needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Unfiltered discussions. Unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Welcome back to The Last Show. I am Caitlin Green, filling in for David Cooper, who is still in the Nevada desert, probably desperately searching for lip balm. I can't imagine a place where your lips would be more chapped than the Nevada desert amongst a bunch of gyrating counterculture people.
Half naked, of course.
But I'm here, as you can tell by the accent, I'm here with our beloved UK correspondent, my favorite person across the pond. The list could go on. Accolades aplenty. Tony Five is here. Tony, and you're here to try out a brand new segment with me.
Caitlin, always wonderful to speak to you. And like you, we have flushing toilets, we have air conditioning, and we don't have dust in the parts that should never be placed. I've been messaging David recently. He's like become feral. Mm-hmm. He's wearing less and less clothes. He's had to be naked pictures from the toilet. There's mud everywhere. And then he says to me, "Why don't you guys come over to Burning Man?" To which I reply, "Well, I can't really reply on radio because you have to bleep it."
He has been sending some video updates and some little photos here and there in our various group chats. And it looks interesting. That's the best I can give you. I'm like, the nicest response I can give is that this looks very interesting and like a very unique experience. But he sends this, and then I see stuff on Twitter, and then I see stuff going around. And that looks completely undesirable. We are talking about footage that I would assume is from some sort of desert warfare. It's just people just sitting in these giant tents. They have sofas. I don't know how they got sofas there, but they're sitting under about a 2 inches of dust. There's wind blowing around, but credit to everyone whose videos I have been watching. They kind of look happy to be there. I mean, maybe that's just the result of whatever substances they're on.
Caitlin Green, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Happy, mad, or sad with Tony Five.
Right. Ooh, yes, the new segment.
This is my segment. Okay. I want to know the last time you've been happy, mad, or sad. Tell me everything.
Oh, so many things recently. So the last time that I was happy was yesterday afternoon. My husband and I enlisted the help of a babysitter for no reason at all. We just said,
nice.
And it's so great. Usually, it's like it's a dinner with other friends, or it's an anniversary, or it's an occasion. But we have started to realize that we have a 3-year-old. We love spending time with him so much. But we need to have a little bit of our adult time, unstructured in a way that we used to have together before having kids. So we said, let's just book our babysitter for a random 3-hour block on a Sunday, and we won't make a reservation. We won't go do anything. We're just going to go and see where the day feels like it might take us. And so we did that yesterday. I live in Toronto. There's a fabulous, if you ever come to Toronto, this is where we're going to go for drinks, Tony. We go to this place called the Writers' Room, and it is on the 17th floor of a hotel here in the city called the Park Hyatt, and it's up in a very nice chic part of town. And we go up there and we sit on the roof. It's a beautiful sunny day, view of the whole city. I have a frosé, which is like a rosé wine slushy. And my husband has a cocktail, and we had some drinks. We walked around Bloor Street here in Toronto. We went and had an early sushi dinner. It was truly incredible. I just absolutely loved it.
I think it's a nice thing because you're obviously still Caitlin Green, but what happens is you become Caitlin Green mummy. And Caitlin Green wife, and sometimes it's nice just to step away from that and become the you that was always you. And I think a lot of people forget how to do that, right? They forget kind of what they become, and I think it's a nice thing. That's a wonderful thing. People could take a leaf out of your book by just booking a babysitter, even if they haven't got a babysitter. I think they should just hire a babysitter.
Do
let
it.
them come around, sit at their home, and then just go out.
Just do something for the sake of and don't create a plan around it. I'm guilty of creating plans, and I think that's a byproduct of having a kid. You always have to structure your time. So unstructured time is what I probably miss most about life pre-children, and we had 3 hours of it, and it felt really, really great. Then, sad and mad. Those two things, don't they just frequently go hand in hand? Don't they? Because
They can do. I'll tell you mine in a
yeah.
minute. But like mad, what really got your go? What got you angry? What got you spewing bile? What got you really like? Oh my god, gritted teeth. I want to punch someone.
So I have a very dear friend of mine who
Oh,
is home visiting,
yep.
and she has been sick for a long time. She has a very serious, some might describe it as a terminal illness. She is stable
Mm,
health wise, for everyone listening who's going, oh my gosh, she is stable health wise, but her illness is incurable. So she is always dealing with her
okay.
own looming mortality, and she is an angel of a human being, just wonderful. Has an 8-year-old daughter, and she also has
Oh,
a soon to be ex husband. Who
oh.
she is going through a messy separation from. It's not that messy, but it's just, it's fraught with a lot of things that make me call his judgment and his character into question. And so
I agree. Yeah, I can hear
she's,
that already.
yeah, she's home visiting. And I feel genuinely quite sad for her because a lot of this is beyond her control. And it's certainly no
Yeah.
reflection of her as a person. It also makes me directly very angry with him. And thankfully for him, he does not live here in Canada. He is on the other side of the planet. But I feel like sometimes like a lot of people, will get really, really mad. And I'm super comfortable being mad about something. But isn't that just the secondary emotion because I'm actually sad? Like I'm sad for my friend. I feel
Of
protective of her.
course.
And then I get mad and want to destroy this man's life.
I mean, I think you could solve this in two things. I'll give you 2 words: hitman.
Okay, well, I'm glad you had the same knee-jerk response that I did because that's exactly where my brain went to. And then all my friends had to talk me off a ledge because I am the friend. I'm the friend in the group chat that everyone goes to when they need like a scathing rant on their behalf. I've been the Cyrano de Bergerac of so many angry emails on behalf of my girlfriends, where I will just send a scud to someone who has mistreated them, or usually it's like a romantic partner that has cheated on them in some way. So yeah, that was the last time that I was sad and mad together, was hearing the download on her visit of a lot of these tales and just thinking like, ugh, I'm so ticked off about this. But yeah, what was yours? Okay, what's your last time you were happy?
Oh, happy. I'm generally quite happy most of the time. I went to see the most phenomenal drone art show just on the outskirts of London. So there were maybe 500 to 1,000 drones, all computer controlled, making shapes and 3D images in the sky. And this is outdoors on a beautiful summer's evening in the countryside with a live quintet orchestra playing like Vivaldi's Four Seasons, and there was like 2,000 candles lit. It was stunning. So that was like happy. I was content. It was kind of blown away. Mad and sad, like you said, kind of combined. I agree with you. I don't know whether you guys know, but this is actually a UK based story. At the moment, there's a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment. It's been propelled. We don't know why exactly. Maybe it's a social media thing. It may be, if you wanted to believe in something slightly nefarious, that other people are pulling the strings if you are that way inclined. But for example, we have roundabouts here in the UK, the big white roundabouts where cars can go round, and people have been painting big red crosses on them, which is a sign of the St. George's flag, which is the English flag. Now, if you go, I'm guessing it might be the same in Canada, but I know when I visited North America, lots of properties have the United States flag
Yeah.
outside their house. You know,
Yeah.
they're very proud to show their flag and their patriotism. England doesn't really have that. There are not many like domestic houses that have the flag. You get them
Okay.
at stately homes. You have them at Buckingham Palace, for example. Absolutely fantastic. But there is a slightly racial or violent connotation with having the St. George's flag. It's associated in a lot of people's minds with hooliganism, football hooliganism, racism, the sort of heavily racist sort of era of the 1970s. So it's never really taken off. But now, because of this sentiment that's going on and how much people are being charged in terms of our taxes that are going on housing immigrants that are coming across the channel,
Right.
again, it's something that's happening in the news. It's really, really big here. It's like front page news here because these asylum seekers, whilst not illegal, so people always call them illegal aliens when they come in. They're not illegal. They're seeking asylum. Now, if they stay when their case has been seen, then they become illegal. But coming to the UK, where they're running from domestic terrorism or whatever for safe haven in the UK, it's completely legal. But the problem is they're going to safe places already, like Spain, like France, and they're crossing the channel And then they're arriving in the UK, they're throwing their passports out in the sea. So when they come in, they're completely undocumented, and they put them in houses. They put them in hotels and houses. And what's happened recently is some of these migrants who have come in are male fighting age, and they have been causing problems. So they've been causing some street level crime, sexual assaults, and that's what's made the British public turn against them.
As like a larger issue, they're just sort of, it's the case of a couple bad apples kind of, change public opinion about a larger group of people, which normally wouldn't be responsible for kind of like these crimes of disruption. Okay, we will be back with The Last Show with David Cooper. I am Caitlin Green, in for David on vacation. We'll be back with Tony 5 up next.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Lowe's has the Labor Day deals you need to give your home a new look. Buy one, get one free select interior paint via Visa gift card rebate. Then, add the final touch with 2 for $8 on select 2.5 or 3-quart mums. Refresh your home and save big while doing it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 9/3. Mums offer in-store only. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. More terms and restrictions apply. See Lowes.com/rebates for details.
The Last Show with David Cooper. Procrastinate your life away with us.
I'm Caitlin Green, filling in for David, and joining us again all the way from across the pond is our UK correspondent, Tony 5. Thank you so much, Tony. And prior to this, we were discussing a new little segment that you've coined, which is Happy, Mad, or Sad, where we share the last thing that made us feel happy, mad, or sad. And when we were discussing your kind of mad and sad together, you were saying that there's a debate that's happening a lot right now, or a discussion, I should say, in the UK around the UK flag, because flags can sort of be co-opted at different times and places and by different groups. And I think here in Canada, we had that happen because there was a period where we had a lot of really, I'm sure you discussed this with David, or at least would have been aware of it, but really prolonged lockdown periods.
Yes.
Yeah, during COVID. And so there were lots of responses to this and a lot of people who felt that the lockdown periods had been going on for far too long and that the government was overstepping in doing this. They decided that they were going to protest this on the streets of Ottawa for an extended period of time. It was like a trucker convoy protest. And
trucker, I remember.
Yeah, the trucker convoy. So huge international news, right? And so, and a lot of them had Canadian flags, and they felt, they were defending a part of Canada that they felt was eroding. And so the Canadian flag was kind of co-opted for a period of time by this movement. That's what a lot of people felt. And I just find it interesting that, flag culture, it is like, if the Olympics are going on, you'll see a bunch of flags, but also if there's a big political movement,
Correct.
You'll see some flags, and people co-opt them or use them. And I just have always found that kind of interesting, because then there will be a conversation once that dies down about taking your flag back. But I just think
do you not think it can be slightly weaponized? Like, it's almost tribal. So, for example, with the World Cup, everybody here has got their wonderful flags from different countries. You've got Brazil and Italy.
Yeah, I like that.
But for some context, the England, or Great Britain as it is a flag made up of 4 countries. You've got England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
So actually what you would see is what people colloquially call the Union Jack is actually the Union flag. But England is actually the Cross of St. George, which is simple, white background and a big red cross. And it's that's causing the problem. Not for any other reason other than it has historical connotations with violence, even though there's nothing to do with it. So I'm mad and sad in one way, because I'm mad because certain members, certain small sects are weaponizing that for fear. I'm also sad because I'm English and proud, and people should be proud. There should be patriotism, and you shouldn't feel an element of what you're judged at just by showing your flag. I don't think there's any crime in being, showing your flag and being proud of it, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, and that was it was a weird time for us here too. And as I imagine you're experiencing now, where it was like, I was used to, I guess in my mind, maybe I'm being naive, but the Canadian flag being very singular and just made me feel happy when I saw it. I don't know why I liked seeing a big Canadian flag, but I just did. And then for a moment in time, it felt like the kind of thing that people were either sort of removing from their cars, or they were not waving their flag as proudly, or they were, and it was for an entirely different reason. And also, I don't know if this happens for you guys in the UK, but we also have a lot of travelers apparently co-opt the Canadian flag. So US travelers increasingly, because in some places there has been some friction with the US and the US government. So US travelers will wear a Canadian flag on their backpack, or they will lie and say that they're Canadian when they go somewhere because they don't want to have the conversation about the US.
Absolutely. And it's like waving a white flag, right? We're not American. We're not American. Please don't hurt us, which I get, so, that's what I would class as almost weaponizing this flag.
Yeah.
And it becoming a very tribal thing, which is, that again, it's really sad, right?
Yeah, it is really sad. That is, you know what? See, and this is the thing about this segment, the happy, sad, or mad of it all. I really do frequently find that when I'm mad about something, I know that it's because deep down I'm actually kind of sad about it. And it's the bumming me out that then makes me mad.
Yeah, it's that visceral element of thinking about it that makes you so mad. I agree.
Yeah. And what do we do when we feel mad and sad? Frequently for me when I'm scrolling through my phone. It's a question that I ask a lot of people. And so I'm going to ask you because I love hearing it. I love talking about it. What is your comfort show? I think there's so many trending shows. Like, you and I were talking, we're both huge fans of Severance.
Yes.
I really liked the show Succession. I've really been, I don't know why I've suddenly been compelled to rewatch X-Files, which was like obviously the big cultural phenomenon of the 90s. But there are shows that are like a cultural phenomenon and people tune in every week and they obsess over it and it becomes this big touch point. But then there are the comfort shows, the shows you watch before bed, the shows you watch to unwind, to escape, to feel good. And I love knowing what everyone watches to feel good because I think that these are the most important shows actually in the end. They may not win all the awards all the time, but I think that they're by far the most relevant.
I mean, your comfort shows, your background shows, as I would call them, where I'm working, and it's just in the background. You kind of know the script inside out. You know every pause, you know every ad break, you know every laughter track. I know for a lot of my friends, it is Friends, the show set in New York. That's the one they know. They can recite them word for word. A lot of people are like the Big Bang Theory. They're probably a little bit old, like younger than me, and that's their thing. But for me, it's Everybody Loves Raymond. I have always loved that. And before that, it was Cheers. So I grew up with Cheers when I was at home, and I could tell you every single scene, every single character. And as I grew older and I lived on my own, it was definitely Everybody Loves Raymond. This the family unit, the Italian family unit, I found so joyful. The jokes they were so tame and timid and gentle. It's like, it's like a warm cup of tea in a drink.
Yep, I love it. And you've picked one that was one of my mom's comfort shows. Was Everybody Loves Raymond.
Really?
She absolutely adored this show. And so it wasn't my comfort show, but it was on in my house a lot.
Yeah.
Because it was, again, pre-streaming services. The comfort shows were frequently the shows that would air a lot. They were syndicated heavily. And so you could kind of find a channel at certain times of day and it would always be on. And my mom loved Everyone Loves Raymond. And I love Ray Romano. I think he's fabulous. I think he's a super likable, very talented comedian. And I also never knew much of the backstory until the Netflix, a new comfort series that they've developed called Somebody Feed Phil. Yes. With Phil Rosenthal, who was the creator of Everybody Loves Raymond. Yeah. Do you watch his show?
Yep. Fantastic.
It's so comforting. Like, he is a very comforting person. My comfort show, I have two really, but one of my main ones is Frasier. And I adore Frasier. No, I don't know how I never made the correlation between my love of Frasier and the fact that I went into a career in radio, which was entirely by accident. But of course, Frasier Crane was a radio host. He was a psychiatrist. He had this, and Kelsey Grammer's voice is just like butter. And even the location, Seattle, kind of a rainy, cozy town, and the family dynamic, the writing was so smart. And so, yeah, that was that show for me where I felt like, I don't know, it was like a warm hug. It was just something I've enjoyed watching before bed for so many years.
When I see these shows 10 years later, 15 years later, it brings me back to where I was, comfortable and happy. And I can't really get into the new shows, which I guess other people who are older or younger than me, actually, it's their zeitgeist, it's their moments, it's their things that are into. So a lot of the things now, like you said, and I know it's your absolute perversion, is these reality shows. I know you're going to try and convince me to get into all that, but I still can't. I'm there. I'm with you. You've given me my first shot of things, and I am watching stuff. But yeah, I will either become a convert or a massive hater of these things.
And I'm open to both. I appreciate an extreme response on either side around the reality TV debate because it is really designed to either speak to a part of you that likes the conflict. I like the campiness. So for me, I'm a huge fan of camp as
Yep.
like a kind of almost like a genre of art, if you will.
Okay.
So I like all of that. And so that's why this works for me. But I don't engage with it kind of like a real thing. I feel like despite it being reality TV, it's like the most fake thing on earth in my mind. And I do believe it's really replaced soap operas. I think that when
Yes.
soap operas left, that, reality TV entered, and it is, I don't know. I don't think it's my comfort viewing show though. It can make me pretty uncomfortable. Like it can be
Yeah.
pretty uncomfortable to watch all this conflict. It is a far departure from Frasier, but I love it, and I've loved talking to you about Everybody Loves Raymond, and it has reminded me of my mom watching it, which is really heartwarming. And I might go back and watch a little bit of it tonight. So thank you, Tony Five, for
Thank you very
joining me
much.
to talk about this.
Caitlin, always a pleasure, my love. I'll speak to you soon. Take care.
Bye.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Prime delivery is fast. How fast are we talking? We're talking puzzle toys and lick pad delivered so fast you can get this puppy under control fast. We're talking chew toys at your door without really waiting fast. Pee pads, cooling mat, and peg hammer fast and fast. And there's training TREATS faster than you can say sit fast. And now we can all relax and order these matching hoodies to get cozy and cute fast. Fast free delivery. It's on Prime.
Keep listening to The Last Show with David Cooper, because the alien invasion can wait. The Last Show with David Cooper.
It's The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green, in for David Cooper. My guest now has amassed hundreds of millions of views on TikTok, where he also has over 350,000 followers, after his hilarious, deeply soothing impersonations of the barefoot Contessa herself, Ina Garten, went viral. And then again and again, like it's always going viral. He's an award-winning sketch comedian, an actor, a drag performer, and a director who you can see on tour, who you may have seen at Just for Laughs, or who you may already be following on social. Please welcome to the show the iconic Tom Hearn. Thank you so much, Tom.
Iconic? Oh my gosh, what a way to start the day.
You are iconic. Does it feel like, I always wonder about this, like when you're a digital creator, it's kind of this weird slow burn, and then you have the viral moments. But you're like the celebrity who lives in people's phones, and does it feel real to you in that way? I mean, that's the way it feels to me.
No, I mean, I never think of it that way, but then when like moments pop up, it's like it's kind of awe-inspiring a little bit. Like I was in New Jersey to see Beyonce, and I'm standing in the pouring rain in my Cowboy Carter costume, and I feel this tapping on my shoulder, and it's just this guy, and he's like, are you the guy that does the barefoot Contessa? My family and I love you. Can I take a picture with you? And I was like, we're at Beyonce. Like, turn around. Beyonce's on stage right now. Watch her. Yeah, so it's so weird. It's so strange.
I think, digital content creation, it felt like it was made fun of and treated sort of as not real for a long time. And then legacy media did this about face and like rushed to hire everyone. And was like, wait, how can we sort of build off of this? But really, whoever I'm watching in my phone, whoever I'm scrolling through in bed, whoever I like enough to send to other people, that's really my favorite kind of celebrity now. I mean, as much as, of course, you're going to love the people. Like, I mean, if I see Jessica Chastain, great. But I don't want to go up and talk to Jessica Chastain. I don't want to like have a drink with her. I want to go up and talk to you. Like, I want to go and have a drink with you.
I feel like that comes down to like the accessibility, like what you're saying of like, I'm in your pocket. So I'm already there. So I feel more accessible than a Jessica Chastain, I feel like. And I feel like that's kind of like all those content creators kind of fall into that category now. I mean, that's a blessing and also a curse, I guess.
Yeah.
Because, like weird things like when Meta rolls out strange features on their apps that show people my location. And then I have people DMing me being like, I know where you live. And I'm like,
that happened to you?
Yeah. Everybody needs to check their location services on Meta. They have a thing now on Maps where it just shows you where people are. Yeah.
We've talked about this on this show. I co-host a podcast with Jan Arden, and Jan Arden's her new girlfriend is an online privacy specialist. This is her whole world. She speaks, and we had a whole segment there, and we've had many segments here where we discuss the new Meta Maps feature and how deeply unsafe it is for this exact reason for public figures. Because a lot of people didn't realize that this feature was turned on because it wasn't from an opt-in perspective.
No.
You had to opt out. It was like the U2 album that came preloaded on everyone's iPod. Like, that's how it felt.
It did. I was so confused when I kept getting messages from people being like, "Oh, you live in this place in Brooklyn?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Was I walking around and like people noticed me?" And they're like, "No, on the map." And I was like, "The map? What are you talking
map?
about?"
That's
and then I went on. It was
awful.
like, it's like literally pinned. Like, thankfully, the entrance to my apartment building is on like a side street, but it was like on the it's so accurate. I was like, "What is going on?" So I was like, "Let's get rid of that."
Okay, so that's the downside of being what I'm now going to call a pocket celebrity.
Pocket celebrity.
The celebrity in everyone's pocket. The upside is that everyone loves you, and that your Ina Garten impersonation, I think, has gotten people through dark times. It's so great. Because like Ina is she's iconic herself, and she's very warm and cozy and welcoming, and you really tapped into this essence so perfectly. So what made you kind of like wake up one day and say, I'm going to put on a wig and a blue shirt and be Ina Garten and see how this goes?
I know, it's so funny. I talk about this all the time. For years, I was like, because I love the Food Network. I love the Barefoot Contessa. I love all my Food Network divas. And for years, I was like, oh, I should do the Barefoot Contessa. But I was like, why would anybody care about that? And then one day during the pandemic, I was like bored. And I had just really started posting on TikTok quite recently. I'd had a couple like slightly viral things, impressions of Doug Ford.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are good.
Impressions of servers, serving outside during a snowstorm, things like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm making a roast chicken. I threw on my blue, like, audition commercial shirt that I wear. And I took 2 wigs, a bob wig and like a short brown wig so I could have bangs. And I look absolutely busted. And I was like, let's just put it out. I don't even know who this is for, what this is for. And then I woke up and I had like 2 million views in like overnight. So I was like, oh, I need to order a new shirt.
Well, I need better hair and makeup.
And I have the same blue shirt and the same wig that I bought the next day. I'm rocking those. I think it's been like 2.5 years. So
now, was this before or after Ina herself had the viral quarantine Cosmo moment?
This was after that. So this would have been like a year or so after. Like, it wasn't even like around that time. I literally just one day was thinking about her because I was truly cooking a roast chicken. Like in that first video, I pull a roast chicken out of my oven because I would just so happen to be making one.
Well, and so that's the other thing I think that's happened and that I'm happy to see happen is that some of the figures that myself, a millennial, grew up watching on the Food Network or, daytime talk TV or whatever it was, they get this rebirth on social media when like Ina, she decides I'm going to make this very her branded video, a TikTok of herself making a quarantine Cosmo at home. And everyone is just fighting for their sanity in various stages of lockdown. And it took off and it introduced her to a whole new generation. And so then when someone like you comes along and decides I'm going to turn this into like high camp art of my own and impersonate her, I just think you've already got this audience that's primed for this content, knows who she is and loves it, even if they're like 21 years old.
Yeah. And you know what? I just randomly happened to hit it at the right time that she was also launching a TV show. So it was everything kind of happened all in one sweep.
Yeah. Okay. And also, so your backstory, you're originally from New Brunswick.
I am.
I myself am also Canadian and I have many, many ties to the Maritimes. Talk to me a little bit about the sort of you being in a very small place, from a very small place, but obviously having this amazing comedic talent, being plugged into pop culture. Like, how do you get from New Brunswick to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of tears and a lot of Red Bull. That got me out of there. But I mean, it's so funny because like people are always like, "But did you always know you're funny? Did you know?" Like, I always kind of thought that I was funny, but I was a drama kid, so I was doing the plays, I was doing the shows, I was like hustling in that world. And like, to be honest, when I first moved to Toronto, I didn't move there to be a comedian. I moved there to do musical theater. That's what I thought I was going to do. I love musical theater, still love it to this day. And like obviously I had like done improv and like things like that in my college years. But I was like, yeah, that's just like a fun thing that I do. I didn't necessarily think that that was going to be like the career. I thought the career was going to be in the theater world. And then, yeah, that's really hard. As somebody who's considered a mover, I'm not a dancer, I'm a mover. So it's hard for me to get through a dance call. So yeah, I started taking classes at Second City and started working at Second City, and the rest kind of just snowballed from there. But I think I always knew that I wasn't going to stay in New Brunswick. I was like, I wanted to live in the city. I wanted to move. I wanted, to pursue an artistic career in some format. And I knew that it's very limited in the Maritimes for opportunities like that. So it just kind of made sense for me to hop the heck out of there.
It's weird. I wonder sometimes about the kind of like tall poppy syndrome a bit in Canada. There is a bit of that. And then you have to like leave to be appreciated. I hear that story from so many people I've kind of talked to over the years. But Canada, I always think we have a smaller population, but we really do punch above our weight class when it comes to creative talent. And also out of the East Coast, it's like we're a small country. That's an even smaller portion of the country. But you have some particularly charming, outgoing, funny, hardworking people who are there. And I love to see anyone take off in a creative space like this. It makes people kind of want to hang in there. I know so many creatives who I think would leave otherwise, but when someone like you and your Ina Garten stuff takes off and then you go on tour and like you said, you get the recognition from JFL. When all these things start to happen, you're like, okay, so I am struggling in my like dumpy Parkdale rental. Not that I have any experience with that. But you're like, I should hang in there and like see where this goes because it can actually be a real career. And so, okay, I want to steal your time a little bit for another break because I want to talk to you about your upcoming tour, the tour that you're actually wrapping up. But I want to talk to you about live events. I want to talk to you about going from being kind of like the pocket celebrity digital creator into somebody who now people really want to pay and see at ticketed events live.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Abercrombie Kids is bringing the ultimate first day energy back to school. It all starts with on-trend outfits for that front door photo shoot. Plus, the coolest tees, shorts, and jeans to take them through the rest of the year. Get them ready for their close-up and keep them comfy too. Make this grade their best one yet. Shop all things back to school, in-store, online, and in the app.
Your above-average intelligence brought you here. It deserves above-average absurdity. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Welcome back to The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green in for David Cooper. I'm speaking with TikTok star, sketch comedian, award-winning sketch comedian, an actor, a drag performer. One of my favorite follows on TikTok. His name is Tom Hearn. Please go and follow him if you don't already. Also, go check out his website. My gosh, you have some killer merch. In a world of merch where everyone I think needs to have it and where I really do want to buy a t-shirt for people that I adore, yours is particularly well done.
Oh, thank you. I worked really hard on getting that done. It was like years in the making. It took forever to come together, but once I'll never forget when I got that first package of like the tote bags and the really big dill shirt. I was like, oh, it's this everything. I'm obsessed.
Okay, so go and check it out if you're into pop culture. If you follow him, if you love his Ina impersonations, whatever, just like go and check it out. Also, though, I do want to talk to you about the world of kind of live events. If you are a digital creator, I think people more and more want to pay money and they want to see you live. I go and see podcasts live. The podcast that I'm on with Jan Arden, we do live events now. We do live shows. I'm always shocked at how quickly they sell out. I am blown away by how many people want to come. And I actually saw you were hosting kind of like an interview Q&A session with the Real Housewives of New York star Sonia Morgan,
the queen,
the one and only, legendary boozer. Yes, Sonia Morgan.
Absolutely. It was what an event that was. That was at Danforth Music Hall in Toronto. Mm-hmm. So fun. And since then, I've hosted for her here in New York, on Long Island, in New Jersey, and I'm doing another show with her on September 5th.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, because I saw it, I thought it was great. You did a great job. And I had interviewed her earlier that day on radio, and she's really fun. I mean, she's such a big personality, but she can be kind of like, they can be hard to rein in, these housewives.
Yeah. She is her own her own person. That's what I'll say. She's gonna do what she wants to do, and I'm just there to be like, and we're coming back to the question. And I
Yes.
love her so much. She's literally exactly the person you see on TV. That's who she is backstage. That's who she is on stage. It's not a show. This is who this woman is. And she's literally the sweetest.
Yeah. And live events in general, I do really think are a big part of kind of the entertainment business now. I mean, I've seen Countess Luann from Roni live. I've seen, like I said, my podcasters live, and you go on tour as well. So you have, in addition to all of your other offerings, you've been on tour and you're wrapping up soon.
Yeah, I've been touring my show called How Fabulous Is That since April of 2024, this hour that I've been doing. I did Edinburgh Fringe, 5-star reviews. Thank you so much. So 22 shows at Edinburgh Fringe, and then I've been popping all around the US performing. I just did a run in on the West Coast in Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, LA, and yeah, I've just been jumping around wherever they'll have me.
I like this so much because I do think people they want to engage with their favorite creators more than ever. And it's so nice, I feel like, to see people who are fans of you and fans of the stuff that you're putting out. I also want to talk a little bit about a pop culture phenomenon that I think has been getting a lot of attention recently. It's these impersonation contests. And so you're hosting a Barefoot Contessa lookalike competition in a few days.
Yes.
And like I said, I think that these underscore how much people want to have lols in real life, and they just want to have fun, and they want to go dress up as their favorite celebrity and be silly. So how did this happen?
Well, okay, so here's the thing is, on a daily basis, I am tagged in videos of people having Barefoot Contessa parties. My Barefoot Contessa bachelorette party, my Barefoot Contessa gender reveal party, my Barefoot Contessa divorce party. And there's always one Jeffrey. There's always one Jeffrey.
Always.
It's all these people dressed up as Ina, and then I'm tagged in it as like crazy. And just like you're saying, I saw the Timothée Chalamet one. I saw I think there was a Pedro Pascal one.
Yep.
Just here in New York this weekend, I didn't even know what was going on at Coney Island. They just did a Pee Wee Herman lookalike competition.
No way.
Yeah,
we had a Drake one. We had one for Drake here in Toronto.
Oh, really? That's so funny.
I think a woman won.
Well, I mean, it's Drake.
Yeah.
Kendrick would love to hear. Kendrick would love to hear that.
He would.
But I was like, you know what? I wanted to make my final show feel special, because people come to my show dressed up as Ina anyways. In San Francisco, I came out, there were 4 women just dressed as Ina Garten in the front row.
I love it. I would do it if I was coming to one of your shows. That would cross my mind 100%.
Listen, I say dress up as any of the characters. Dress up as Reba, dress up as Cody Brown, dress up as Martha Stewart, James Corden. Let's do it. Let's go. I love to see it. So I was like, how do I make this last show at Bell House, which is happening on the 29th, Friday, here in New York? How do I make it feel special? And I was like, let's host a competition beforehand. So I'm going to come out into the bar beforehand to see all the Inas. I'm going to pick my top 2. I'm going to be dressed as Jeffrey as I do it. I'm going to take a picture with all the Inas. And then during the show, I'm going to award the winner.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Have you ever talked to Ina?
I've never spoken to her.
This has to happen.
This
feels this is a wrong that must be righted.
I know. And the thing is I've heard from other people that I've done impressions of. I've heard from Martha Stewart. I've heard from Reba McEntire. I've heard from the people, and I haven't heard from the Queen. So it's where are you? I'm just going to get in my car and drive up to the Hamptons and go to Ina Garten Way and just stand there dressed as her, and hopefully she'll just show up.
Well, she does have such an online presence that I do think that this sort of has to happen.
She has 100% seeing the videos of me as her. I'm just waiting for the moment where she finally is it's time. And maybe that time will be her showing up to the Ina Garten lookalike competition.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine?
I did this thing during Edinburgh Fringe because I was performing on stage as Jeffrey, and somebody took a picture in the back of the room, and there was a woman sitting in the front row who had a bob. And from the back, it looked like Ina was watching Jeffrey on stage. So I was like, oh my God, guys, you'll never believe who came to my show last night. And I showed that photo, and then you slide, and it was just an audience picture with obviously a very clear clip art photo of the Barefoot Contessa. And people lost their minds. They're like, I can't believe she came.
Oh, they bought it. Oh my.
Yes. And I was like, oh, we are not going to survive AI. We are not going to
No, we're
survive it.
not.
No,
No, we're absolutely not.
I'll send you the picture afterwards because it's so obviously not a real photo. Like the color is completely different. Like she's like sitting on top of another person. Like,
Media literacy really is at an all-time low. I do feel for like the deep fake of it all. Like some of that stuff I think people could really be confused by. But anyways, oh my gosh. Well, I really want there to be some sort of a collab between you and Ina. I feel like that ultimately is such a miss. I also want to know a little bit more about your Just for Laughs experience, of course, because you like recently were featured with them very heavily. So what's been going on there?
oh my God, what an exciting time. I have wanted to be part of New Faces characters forever. I mean, I do stand up as well and all that fun stuff, but my heart and soul is in character performance, in musical performance. That's what I want to do. So to be recognized for that is
Mhm.
really, really impactful for me as a comedian and like very validating as well because
Yeah.
it's been like such a long road to get there. And it was just an amazing festival. I'm wearing my Just Relapse hat right now. I'm repping. Give me a show next year. I'd love to come back. But no, and it was just so nice because like, the festival is back for the full first time from
Yeah.
their hiatus. And it just felt nice to be around everybody. And because I've been in the States too, it was just so nice to come back to Canada and see all my like Toronto comedian friends as well. Like, we're all here together. It felt good.
100%. I have sort of unintentionally created a themed episode today because later on in the show, I'm actually going to be talking to a man who created a game called Rejection Therapy, and it took off also on TikTok.
Yeah, I've seen it. I know
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
so after you, I'm going to be speaking to James Comley, and he's going to be talking to me about rejection therapy. So I am very pleased with you withstanding all these amounts of rejection. I cannot encourage everyone enough to please go follow Tom on social. Go to his website, check out his merch, check out his tour, and thank you so much for speaking with me today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. What a dream.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
On top of building this fake volcano for months, I give my daughter Smarty Pants vitamins to support her brain health. So her science fair project sounds more like and less like. And while I may say it's not a competition, of course it's a f***ing competition. Choose Smarty Pants vitamins to support your kid's brain health and save the science fair. Shop on Amazon, smartypantsvitamins.com, or at Target today.
This is your invitation to a journey where relationships are dissected, science is simplified, and the news is hilariously twisted. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Welcome back to The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green in for David Cooper, and I'm not sure if you've ever used Medium. If you have, then you're just like me and you probably spend too much time reading articles online. And if you haven't, it's a social publishing platform. So writers that are amateur and professional publish all kinds of content there. Mainly it's long-form articles, essays, fiction. Imagine a blogging platform gets together with a social network and has a kid. That kid would be Medium. So I came across the title of an article that grabbed my attention. It was titled Finding My Fighting Words, How I Learned to Have Uncomfortable Conversations. And the context was that the writer explained, quote, how I had 50 painfully uncomfortable conversations with strangers to practice being assertive under pressure. So you can go read the article. It's going to be in our show notes because this radio show is, of course, a podcast like everything else. But the writer got a lot of his ideas for having these unusual conversations from my next guest. His name is Jason Comley, and he is the creator of Rejection Therapy. It's a game designed to help players get more comfortable with rejection by asking them to do things that strangers will almost certainly decline to do. So I am in a personal quest right now, Jason, to find the area between passive and aggressive, which is assertive. It's sort of being able to assert yourself in situations, maintain your own boundaries, and manage people pleasing, and also not being a crazy person by going overboard. So I'm very interested in your game. So please tell me a little bit about yourself and about this game that I'm probably going to have to go and buy.
I guess I'm a problem solver, I think, by nature. I'm an idea kind of person. I constantly have ideas. And so this was just another problem in my life that I wanted to solve. And I didn't know that there was any kind of solution available. Um, and I actually did some research beforehand as to, does someone deal with rejection? And the answers I was getting was like, Tylenol can reduce the effect of rejection, feeling rejected, like Tylenol, believe it or not, an actual medication. I saw like it was like a life hack or something, try Tylenol. It actually,
I've heard of
because
beta blockers, but I've never heard of Tylenol.
well, so I'm thinking like, that's it? Is that what we got? So I kind of got my inspiration from the Russian Spetsnaz. So they're an elite fighting force in Russia. And at the time, I was kind of exploring the different training regimes of these different elite forces around the world, and what they were good at and what their training was and things like that. And the Spetsnaz, they expose themselves to a lot of highly dangerous situations, being locked in small places for long periods of time, actually being trapped in a small room with only a spade and an angry dog that was, going to kill them, kind of thing. So, yeah, it just brought to these kind of really extreme situations to face their fear. And of course, if you're doing anything like that, it's you're going to be facing your fears. You're going to have to master your fears. So that was kind of the headspace that I was in when I came up with rejection therapy. Is that running away from this problem is not going to do me any good, because that's what I'm trying to do, and it's making it worse. At the time, I was a web designer, and a solopreneur. And so I was working from my apartment a lot of times, and not really getting out unless I was meeting with a client or something. There really wasn't any reason for me to go out, and I was getting tons of work, so I was at home all the time. And anytime I would try and go outside, or even if I was meeting with a client, be having these panic attacks. They'd be telling me about the requirements of this job and the specs and about their business and all this kind of stuff. And I'd be in a cafe with them, and while they're talking, I'm having a full blown panic attack, and trying to maintain calm and trying to pretend like I'm listening to them, when really I'm just having a complete meltdown. And I thought, I cannot live like this. So that was sort of the genesis of rejection therapy.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an icebreaker. So as someone who's had panic attacks in my life, I know that they happen at the most inopportune times. Mine were frequently triggered by things like travel. I'm not sure why, but of course, when you are traveling, say on a subway or the GO train or on an airplane, you're in public, and the feeling of people looking at you and being around you and not being able to go and be alone somewhere is extremely distressing and then heightens it. And so, a situation where you're sat across the table from one person, you're navigating a conversation where it's tied to needing a certain outcome or desiring a certain outcome. It's something that also would happen to me if I had to have a conversation with a manager where I was either asking for more money or we were going through a performance review. I would just become so panic stricken that I couldn't stay in the moment and I wasn't my best self. So that is deeply relatable. And it seems like your game, rejection therapy, is really geared towards kind of exposure therapy for you, much like these, Russian elites. They figured out that by doing something to yourself over and over again and like surviving it and coming out the other side, I would assume you kind of figure out that it's not the worst case scenario. Like, what's the worst that could happen? It's very CBT therapy.
Right, right. And it is terrifying and kind of exhausting the first couple of times you do it, but you begin to understand the process and see that there is a process. And so from there, I was able to try and manage it. So that there's this kind of terror that comes over you at the very beginning, and I was having these symptoms like my it would seem like my tongue would fatten inside my mouth, and I couldn't talk, and my mouth would get all dry, and my heart would be racing, and my hands would get all clammy, and so there was dealing with that, and then trying to speak when I'm just having, and then afterwards, this, after the ask, which sounds like a good book title, actually, being hit with this wave of emotion, depending on the answer, depending on what happens, you're just kind of overwhelmed with either relief or whatever it is, surprise, these kinds of things. So it's managing those emotions and the kind of these chemicals that are frothing in your body, just kind of dealing with that. And so, once you go through it a bunch of times, it you learn how to manage it better. And so there was ways that I was actually just cutting out the fear. Absolutely. One, it was experience, saying, I've done this before. I've survived it. I can do this again. And so it gets a little easier. It's almost like a mountain or something. I climbed this thing before. I know it's going to be hard, but I'm going to enjoy it more this time. So it actually became almost like a video game. Like, when you're under stress, when you're under a stressful situation or times are hard, you find that, at least I find that my mind is sharper, my senses are sharper, and I just seem to rise to that occasion, and I think that happens, you feel more alive, and it just becomes exciting instead of it being anxiety inducing. It becomes exciting. So yeah, it was just the journey was amazing. I mean, I remember sometimes when I was testing this thing out, like getting rejected and on purpose.
Yeah, it's everyone's greatest fear because we're such social creatures that I think it's ingrained in us to just avoid rejection, avoid any situation where we are potentially going to be socially ostracized or labeled as weird, because there would be real consequences for you, like in the animal world, if you were the weird one.
Absolutely. Oh, and even in the real world, especially in ancient times or something, if you were excommunicated or an outcast or something like that, that usually meant your death.
I'd love to stick with you for a minute here and have you join to talk a little bit more closely about the actual format of the game and what people have to do and how people can inject a little bit of this rejection therapy into their day-to-day life.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. Enjoy complimentary access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection, and with a welcome offer of 150,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership, your business can soar to new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Broadcasting from the intersection of chaos and more chaos. The last show with David Cooper.
I'm back with Jason Comley, writer, entrepreneur, and creator of a social self-help game called Rejection Therapy. The idea of that is to embrace one of our greatest fears as humans, rejection. So in addition to creating a social self-help game, Jason has also authored something that I do want to talk to you about a little bit later called Blitzed. And it's about his desire to learn another language by reading 100 books in 100 days in that target language. And I have suffered through Duolingo, so I do want to get to that with you in the end. But first, I want to talk a little bit more about rejection therapy. We were just speaking about this in our last segment. And the value of exposing yourself to little tidbits of rejection to overcome your fear of rejection, overcome your fear of talking to strangers, making the big ask work. So Jason, the format of the game, it's kind of, I'm imagining something like Cards Against Humanity, where you're given little challenges on a card, something to go do that you have set up and sort of designed for yourself, and to an extent, I assume, personally tested. Am I right? Is that a decent synopsis?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to make this system as easy as possible and as straightforward as possible and as free of loopholes as possible. So I designed it for myself. I had no idea that it was going to become a thing outside of my own personal life. But I just wanted to make it so that I couldn't make excuses as to why I didn't get rejected or something. So, if you don't get rejected in real life, you have to try again. So I just tried to, I can be pretty wily in my own sort of self-improvement efforts. So I just had to batten down all the hatches and make sure that I couldn't, that I really had to face it.
So what are some examples of challenges that people are given in the game?
Well, so ask for a discount when making a purchase. And that one I really hate doing. I really hate asking for. I hate asking for favors. And I hate asking for discounts. So that's something that I just I thought, yeah, that one's going to be tough. There was another one too, where it was like go to the bank and ask for a withdrawal of Bitcoin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, stuff like that. But the ones I was doing, they became more and more and more challenging. But it could also be things like, smile at someone in the grocery store. So there was kind of a gradient there of difficulty. You didn't have to slay the dragon right off the bat. You could grab an easy one and just smile at someone. And sometimes you get this, and a rejection is sort of like them looking away or kind of looking at you like, excuse me, I mean, I asked this one guy, we were both looking through watermelons and I said, can you tell me how I can pick a good watermelon? And the guy just looked at me like, are you a jerk or something? Like, are you punking me or something? Like, and I could see his expression. I read his expression and I said, no, I'm not trying to, I'm sorry if I'm bothering you. I really want to know how I pick a good watermelon. And he just kind of sighed and he says, well, okay, you're looking for a sunspot here. And you want to make sure that there's some green stripes on here. So it ended up actually being a very practical conversation that's really helped me ever since.
You mentioned previously, like asking for a discount. This is one thing that I see
Yeah.
other people
Yeah.
do. Not many. I would say universally, like most people don't really want to do that. But when I see someone successfully ask for a discount, especially around a major purchase, like a car or whatever, and then they get it and they actually get somewhere, it is a really impressive and useful life skill. And I could never wrap my brain around doing that. But it is something that I would like. It's a quality that while I'm too embarrassed to do it myself, when I see someone else do it really well, I'm like in awe of it.
Right. There is one card that's, call your credit card provider, ask them to lower your interest rate. So that
Oh
is
my
actually one of
gosh.
the cards. Yeah. So some of them are, you know, um, extremely practical. There's one, ask to cut to the front of the queue. You know, um,
Yep.
and yeah, I did that at a Tim Hortons one time, and I got my rejection. So, ask a meat eater to become a vegan. Yeah, I asked someone their political affiliation.
Yeah, okay. So it's kind of things that people see as being impolite. And like the idea would be that you're going to get rejected from a lot of these things because they would be seen as impolite. Maybe sometimes it'll work out in your favor. But the goal of the game is to get the rejection and learn, hey, worst case scenario, it's like really not that bad.
That's right.
I love
That's right.
that.
Yeah, it's just sometimes it seems like being nosy. For me, I'm always interested in the origin of someone's last name. And some
Mm,
people are like, "What?" But for me, I think that can open up some really interesting conversation about their life and their ancestry and things like that. I don't know why I'm interested in that sort of thing, but when I do get a response, it's usually quite interesting, and I really remember their name after that.
that's great. That's actually, I mean, that's a good technique for anyone who's working in sales, honestly.
Right. Yeah, yeah, and I always say that. It's a natural curiosity that I have, but I
Mhm.
just say, "Oh, oh, that name. Where does that come from anyway? Is that the Germanic or, something like that? And they'll fill me in. And
I'm not even that interested in the etymology of someone's last name, but Jason, I'm going to steal this from you. I might have to start doing this in conversation. So, yeah, in addition to creating rejection therapy, you also wrote a really great piece about your journey to learning another language called Blitzed, 100 books in 100 days in your target language. What's sort of the synopsis here and where can people find it?
Okay, so I wanted to learn Polish because my ancestry is Polish-Ukrainian. And Polish is very, very difficult. And going through flashcards and taking these kind of traditional lessons just seemed completely intolerable for me. And I actually wanted to uh, enjoy the language like someone who's fluent would enjoy it. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to read 100 Polish books as if I know the language. Um, and so what I actually did was I would get Polish books that also had an audiobook with it. And I would listen to the audiobook and read the story along with it and do really quick translations where I could, and just tried to somehow, mind meld with the literature. And I decided to do that for 100 days. So many of these books were full-length books, like a Stephen King novel, Joyland. I read that in Polish, and that one actually took me 9 hours to do. Yeah, and then I had to read another book after that. So I actually got permanent eye damage, I think, from
Oh my
that.
God, probably.
But I definitely picked up a lot of vocabulary that way, and in a very contextual way too. It wasn't just isolated words, but they were attached to stories and emotions and things like that. So I think it was a really worthwhile thing, but I don't know if I would recommend it because it's very hard on the eyes.
Okay. Well, I will note for everyone who obviously can't see Jason as I can currently that he is wearing glasses. So there is perhaps some truth to that theory. Okay. Thank you so much, Jason. Jason Cumley has been my guest. He is a writer, entrepreneur, and creator of a social self-help game that we have been discussing in great detail called Rejection Therapy. I am going to try this. I am now more inspired than ever to go out and embarrass myself in public and remember that it's all going to be okay. Now that we're done talking about pushing past our comfort zones when it comes to rejection, our next segment could push you well outside of your comfort zone when it comes to relationships. Polyamory, open relationships, ethical non-monogamy, whatever you've seen it referred to as, whether it's on a hit show, movie, or someone's status on a dating app, it's moved from subculture to mainstream fairly quickly. You may have not personally dipped your toe into the open waters of multi-person relationships, but I'm guessing that at the very least, the topic has shown up in your algorithm and you might have some questions. So I've enlisted a professor and author of the book American Poly to talk about how we got to this point of poly popularity, where it began, and what makes it work, and also what makes it not work. That's up next on The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green, in for David Cooper.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
At Blinds.com, it's not just about window treatments. It's about you, your style, your space, your way. Whether you DIY or want the pros to handle it all, you'll have the confidence of knowing it's done right. From free expert design help to our 100% satisfaction guarantee, everything we do is made to fit your life and your windows. Because at Blinds.com, the only thing we treat better than windows is you. Visit Blinds.com now for up to 50% off with minimum purchase plus a professional measure at no cost. Rules and restrictions apply.
Smart, sharp, and slightly unhinged. Late night's fresh perspective. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Welcome back to The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green, in for David Cooper, who is off engaging in counterculture in the Nevada desert at Burning Man. And my next guest is here to talk about something which, until fairly recently, felt very counterculture, polyamory. or perhaps you've been on some dating apps and you might know it as the acronym ENM, Ethical Non-Monogamy. His name is Christopher Gleason. He's an award-winning cultural historian, educator, and author of the book American Poly, which traces the countercultural religious origins of polyamory in American society. He's also on the faculty at Georgia State University where he lectures, so he is extremely qualified to talk about this kind of taboo/mainstream now topic. Thank you so much for joining me today, Christopher.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
It's great. I mean, I have friends. This is where I was really predominantly introduced to the idea of today's version of polyamory, of ethical non-monogamy. And it's through my single friends. They're on dating apps, and the number of people they encounter who are looking to add someone to their pre-existing relationship is not low and only seems to be going up. So your book, you really go back into kind of the history of this and you approach it from a very studious perspective. I'm curious as to kind of how this all started, what this traces back to, and where we're at now.
Yeah. So when I started this book project, I had no idea where it would take me. And so I was thinking that it was going to be like post-Christian, secular intellectuals in New York thinking about how to like live their lives, in kind of post-Christian world. And I found very quickly that the history of polyamory is deeply countercultural religion. And so I was tracing these concepts back because there's a lot of words and jargon that polyamorists use, ethical non-monogamy, compersion, these different kind of words they use to talk about the relationships that they have. And so I started tracing the history of them, and I found that a lot of them just have their origins in these, religious communities in the 60s and 1970s, kind of like this very hippie kind of approach to things when people really rethinking things in the 60s. And it was really fascinating to pull that out. A lot of the ideas, like how you're supposed to relate to people ethically in non-monogamous situations and things like that, people have been thinking about for decades. And so that was one of the really cool things to see. And a lot of those pieces have made it into the way people still talk now about it.
That's funny because I would have thought that ethical non-monogamy was like a new kind of therapy term. Like it feels very the way that therapy language has made its way into everyone's vernacular, regardless of whether or not they've been to therapy. It really seemed like that. And I don't know. I think there might be likely a lot of misconceptions around polyamory. I feel as though my personal perspective was always that it was kind of the stuff of Mormon lore, that it was, I'm a reality TV addict, so I'm familiar with it in the sense of, sister wives, or most recently, the big runaway success is The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And this is a reality show that follows much younger, very social media savvy TikTok stars. And they all, I don't know how much of them engage in polyamory, but some of them have engaged in swinging. And there was a Mormon swinging scandal that broke around the cast of the show. And it just took over. So like what role does the kind of like Mormonism and all of that? Cause like, that's not sort of the free love look at this, but that's what I always thought of.
No, it's really interesting that you pull that out. And especially that there's a swinging scandal on Mormon in the Mormons. That's fascinating. Historically, I think polyamorists have tried to kind of distance themselves from polygamy or, Mormon practices of polygamy. The history of that specifically as it's manifested in Mormon communities throughout the 19th century and into the 20th century has been very patriarchal in a lot of ways. And it's also been very anti-LGBTQ. It's not affirming either. And so polyamory as it exists in many facets today, or people who, say they're polyamorous, they identify as polyamorous, typically are gender egalitarian and they typically are, queer affirming. But, everything evolves. And I'm sure there are forms of Mormon practice that might, have changed and evolved over time that might be encompassed. But when I think of polyamory as a contemporary manifestation, those are two of the ways in which the communities have distanced themselves from Mormon polygamy because of those reasons.
Why do you feel as though people are more comfortable boldly stating their poly status now versus in the past? Does it just feel like society is more accepting of these things? Sometimes I wonder about that. Society can feel more accepting, but also not. Like also can have these periods of regression that happen kind of culturally. And I'm always just surprised. I guess I'm surprised by the number of people who I see will outwardly just say, I'm sleeping with multiple people other than my husband or wife, and we're all doing it, and it's all fine, and then messaging my friends on dating apps.
I do think that it is a cultural shift that's happened. And so and historians of especially queer history have talked about kind of the way the world turned in the 21st century, how after the AIDS crisis, there was an opening up to acceptance of queer lifestyles and non-traditional, and that it just began to continue to expand. But that point that you make about, the ebb and flow, that things can become more accepting. And then now, especially in the United States, we see this kind of backlash against that. And so it might be that, I don't know, it might stick around, but I definitely think that it kind of rode the coattails of queer acceptance.
That's a great point. I mean, I do know, again, amongst many of my gay and queer friends, having open relationships was definitely more common than amongst my straight friends. But now I am seeing a lot more kind of heterosexual couples engage in this. And I can't speak to, I don't have a very big study group for outcomes, but in my limited exposure of my own friend groups, social circles, friends of friends, etc. It hasn't always panned out super well for the people who've opened up their relationship. Is there any sort of statistic, like reliable statistic, on people who open up their relationships, who move towards polyamory, and what it does to sort of the foundational relationship? Does it last? Does this have a negative impact or a positive impact?
Yeah, I think the statistics are hard to decipher. A lot of people, there's not widespread studies. People have said that it's roughly the same. Other people have tried to say that it isn't. I have not found a longitudinal reliable study that could really say that it's different drastically or similar. I think that point that you made about non-monogamy in queer communities is important, because one of the things that I saw in this, or some of the feedback I got when I published this, was that it left out a lot of queer experience, specifically in homosexual relationships. And in doing the history of it, there was a lot of bisexuality, because a lot of people who were in committed relationships wanted to kind of explore that side of themselves, but it was kind of bisexual, heterosexual. And it was because a lot of the organizers in the 80s and 90s, when they went out and tried to make organize with leaders in queer communities, basically a lot of the gay people just told them, we've been doing this for years, and we don't need to put a name on it, and you're not telling us anything new, and we don't need another thing that would bring us bad press, essentially. And I think that's really fascinating. So I think future studies definitely, especially when we think about polyamory in gay communities, will be able to expand and build on that.
I will say, I guess I've seen a small handful of relationships where I think they were rooted, at least, in polyamory, which is to say that when they got together, this was part of their initial kind of origin story as a couple, versus maybe they were together for a long time in monogamy, and then at one, maybe, or both partners suggested the idea of opening up the relationship. And I feel like the people who were monogamous for a very long time beforehand, and then that shifted, I feel like that change in the dynamic and in the relationship dynamic might have been the hard part to straddle, versus like, we always operated this way. It was always very like open, and this wasn't considered like secretive in some sense.
I think that's 100% right. And I see, if you're in poly community, if you were to go to like a poly meetup group or something like that in the city, the first thing that they'll tell you is, if you're not both coming into this on the same page about it, it's not someone that can fix a marriage or a relationship, right? And a lot of people try to use it that way, or to spice it up, or to do anything. And that's typically a recipe for disaster. I think for a lot of, it's emotionally, it takes a lot of commitment and bandwidth to do something like that, right? And I think you're right that especially a lot of the success stories I've seen are two people or three or four, sometimes it's multiple people who come together with that understanding going in.
My guest is Christopher Gleason. He's an award-winning cultural historian, an educator, and the author of the book American Poly. When we come back, I want to talk to you, Christopher, a little bit about the role that pop culture plays in making something like polyamory go a little bit more mainstream.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Class is now in session. And the UPS Store is here to help you ace arriving on campus. Our certified packing experts can pack everything you need, from desktops to decor. Plus, when you pack and ship with us, you get our exclusive pack and ship guarantee. Your items arrive safe or your money back. Restrictions and limitations apply. To get a 20% off packing coupon and for full details, visit the upsstore.com/packing.
When the day is done, we're just getting started. The last show with David Cooper.
It's the last show, and I'm Caitlin Green, keeping David Cooper's seat warm while he's off on vacation, welcoming back my distinguished guest, a cultural historian, writer, and educator who has extensively studied and written a book about something that used to feel taboo, but feels increasingly mainstream, polyamory. That book is titled American Poly, and his name is Christopher Gleason. Welcome back, Christopher.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Are you aware of kind of the recent movies like Challengers, and I forget the other one that just came out? These like sort of like rom-coms that I feel like would have typically been just about one couple, and instead you kind of encounter like the world of polyamory or threesomes. And when I see that not necessarily be the feature of like an indie film or the plot point in like a little independent production or something that's seen very edgy, it is a rom-com subject matter, and it has the biggest names in Hollywood starred in it. Do you think that that is an indicator that like this particular topic has become mainstream?
I absolutely do. And I think that it's something that we've seen increase kind of over time. I remember, originally it was like a little minor subplot in like House of Cards or something like that.
Yeah.
Severance or
Succession?
Succession, that's right. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
watched that one
Yeah.
recently to go back and kind of see it how it was depicted. But now it is. It's
Mhm.
almost like it's moved into comedy, right? It's something that's in front of us all the time.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of what happens in, at least that I've seen in sort of like the Hollywood version of it, it is this desire to sort of paint one of the three people as like the jilted lover.
Yeah.
And I think that can be really closely tied to how people feel about the topic of polyamory in general, is this need to sort of categorize everyone involved in the situation as like, are you the person who's being left out, or are you the person who's kind of like the villain? Like that's just something that I find interesting, is the desire of the human mind to categorize things as in some way bad or good all the time in a situation where I'm like, I don't think it's not black or white. It's very, very gray.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like almost like it's also like a power play, or it's something that is going to inject some kind of. I mean, it is, and that's the thing is like it does inject a certain level of complication or complexity. I think maybe is probably the way to do it. So, I can see why a lot of probably show runners are probably seeing this as something that's going to bring some drama or some, up the the tension in relationships.
And also not know, like I said, again, from just my own personal experiences with it, it certainly did that for many of my friends who opened up their relationships. There is a new person involved. And so there is a whole set of new circumstances and emotions and feelings to consider. And there's a new level of communication to manage. And I think a lot of people who maybe are struggling with communication in their initial relationship now have to do a lot more of it. Like if you were struggling to talk before or to like enjoy your sex life before, now you've introduced like a whole other category of it. So I do appreciate the complications that would arise with that. And I also appreciate kind of like the human desire to even do it. So in your like historical study of this, do most like in polyamory, do most people do it kind of as the spice it up? Or was this kind of started as like I don't know, like a way to connect with different people and not have to necessarily end one relationship while you want to pursue somebody else?
I think it manifests for different people in different ways. I definitely see people who are, trying to branch out. I know a lot of people, I have personal connections to people who are conservatively religious, and they grew up and then they married very early. And so that they didn't want to leave that relationship behind. And so they wanted to explore or something like that. We see people who are more sexual, people who want to explore queer identities, or, there's all kinds of different reasons for it. Historically, though, I found it really interesting is that there in the 60s and 70s, there were a lot of people who were trying to model a sexual ethics in religion or spirituality, I think is probably a way to say it, right? And so they're actually talking about like the interconnectivity of nature and how that this kind of energy is not something that should be limited to a monogamous relationship, but can be expanded beyond that. So I think you see everything from hypersexuality, sexual orientations to, spirituality.
Okay. And I also wanted to say, what kind of incidents did you encounter in any of your studies around women specifically who later in life were discovering that perhaps they were queer? Maybe they had married a man and they had children together, but all of a sudden later in life, they found themselves increasingly attracted to women. Again, just drawing from pop culture and, my own personal friends and acquaintances, I'm seeing a lot of that. Like, there's a lot of celebrities who I think we know publicly as being heterosexual, and then as they get older, we'll see all of a sudden that will change, whether it's a reality star or a musician or whoever it is. I feel like that's kind of a trend.
And I really like that too. I like the idea that people's sexuality can be fluid over a period of time. I think it's more true to life. And so I think definitely polyamory has been a way for which people can explore things like that. I follow two, women in the book and that really were pioneers in kind of harnessing the culture and then coming and creating the words that really laid the foundation for polyamorous ethics and stuff. And one of them was extremely open with her bisexuality, and she really embraced polyamory as a way in which to not have to limit that part of her. It's interesting too, though, because I think we see the flip side too. A lot of times we'll see, predominantly heterosexual couples who get kind of demonized for looking for that bisexual woman to come in and kind of play this more male gazy kind of role in a relationship. So it can manifest in different ways.
Is there anything you've seen that you would say, hey, I've studied this for a long time. If you were interested in opening up your relationship, maybe do this and maybe don't do that?
I think 100% that when you were talking about communication, one of the things in poly communities that they talk about a lot is it's not actually about sex, right? This is
Yeah.
about relationships. It's about being able to be a effective communicator, open and honest about what you're doing, what you're thinking. It does take a high level of communication, and things that go unsaid end up becoming problems a lot of times. So if you're
Mhm.
not able to effectively communicate with your partner, if there are problems, it's probably not something that you want to experiment with to navigate those with.
And the couples who you think do this successfully, who navigate this successfully, would you say that they probably had like a stronger foundation in their relationship and kind of like better communication at the outset?
It almost unilaterally, the ones that I've seen be successful at it are like that, right? They
Hmm.
either come into it as polyamorous, or if they become polyamorous together, they have a really solid foundation of communication and openness and honesty. I don't know, a quintuple here in Atlanta of men, and I watched how they navigate the relationship, and it's beautiful. I mean, they're almost like a family. Like they've always been together. It just seems like, and I've watched them kind of their family grow over time, where they'll add people and watch it, and it's really beautiful to see that.
And I also wonder how children factor into this because I know some couples in my life who, over the course of time have opened things up and then they had children beforehand. How does that factor in for people in your experience? Is that an added layer of complication? Do they conceal this from their kids more commonly, or is it something they're very open with?
It's hard to conceive. I mean, there are family configurations where there are, not everyone's not a primary partner. You might be tertiary, where you don't necessarily have to be known by children. But the
Mhm.
sociologist Elizabeth Schiff has done some really good work on kind of following families over time and how it affects children. And I think that there's always this fear that it's because it's non-traditional or it's outside of what we
Yeah.
think of as normal, that it's going to be detrimental for kids. And it doesn't seem to be that that's the case at all. A lot of the early foundational thinkers of the polyamory movement in the 80s and 90s argued that it actually was better for the kids because there were more responsible adults to come and give emotional, physical resources, really across the gamut. And I think that has played out beneficial. It also becomes more difficult if there is a family breakup too. So there's ups and downs. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Christopher. This has been very eye-opening. Again, my guest has been an award-winning author and an educator named Christopher Gleason. If you're interested in this topic at all, he's got a great book out called American Poly. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
That's it for The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green. It has been a pleasure to fill in for David Cooper tonight. Don't forget, The Last Show is available as a podcast. Just head to www.lastshow.pizza, not .com, to listen and subscribe. Have a great night.
Well, you've heard me on the radio and you've listened to my podcast. Well, now you can watch me on YouTube for thought-provoking conversation, fearless interviews that you won't get anywhere else. The Ben Mulroney Show every single day. So go to YouTube, subscribe to The Ben Mulroney Show, and never miss an episode.